In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how long you should rest between sets if you want to build the maximum amount of muscle in the shortest possible time. Everyone has a different answer when it comes to rest time. Some people say 30 seconds, some people say 40 seconds, 50, 60, 120 seconds. Some people say like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Who's right and who's wrong? And what is right for you when your goal is to build muscle? Now, if you don't know who I am, my name's Andy Clements and I make content for people wanting to build muscle and lose fat without using drugs. And in this video, we're going to talk exactly about how long you should rest when it comes to building muscle. Now, let me start with a quick story here. So when I first started training, I used to rest just random times. I didn't even know that like specific rest times was really a thing, right? This was like back in like 2008. There wasn't as much YouTube stuff around back then. And I never really timed my rest time. I didn't know you had to. I just used to talk to my mates in between sets. We used to train in like groups of 4 and 5. It's like when we were like 15, 16 years old. And we just didn't know any better, right? And the result of that was I used to rest probably way too long. Inconsistent rest times. So I wasn't standardizing my programs whatsoever. There was zero intensity in my actual weight training programs. There was zero intensity, zero consistency, and a result, zero gains. Like I just didn't progress whatsoever. Now, there was a bunch of other reasons as well that we didn't have a lot of results from those programs, like diet, like training, like sleep, like all this stuff. But rest times really weren't helping. So it was definitely something that I needed to fix that I wasn't aware that I needed to fix. Now, it wasn't until I like downloaded the most basic program off the internet. I think it's like bodybuilding.com or something that was knocking about in those days. And one of the columns on the program said rest time. And I was like, rest? Really? Like rest time? I didn't realize that that was a thing you had to track. I thought you just did it till you were tired and then you rested and then went again. So that was the first time I'd ever even considered timing my rest. So I bought a little stopwatch and I started timing my rest. And it was like the most basic thing ever. The rest time recommendations are literally like 1 minute between every single set, like 60 seconds. But when I started implementing that, because it was something as opposed to what I was doing before, which was nothing, I started seeing results. I started seeing that the intensity of my workouts started getting harder. I stopped training with like groups of 5 or 6 people annoying everybody else in the gym. And I actually started to see a difference, not only in the intensity and the difficulty of my workouts, but also in my physique. Again, this happened about the same time as, I made some changes to my diet and changes to my training and all that sort of thing. So you can't break down to rest time specifically, but rest times definitely were a part of that. Now, I then started to see some results. So I started to see some muscle coming on that skinny little frame that I had back then, right? And things started to turn around a little bit. Now, since then, I've obviously, in the 14 years that's passed since then, I've learnt the nuance about rest times. I've learnt what kind of rest time is appropriate for what kind of training and what kind of person, all that kind of thing. But back then, just the fact that I had a consistent rest time that was reasonably appropriate for me was the most important thing. So this is the most important thing that I'm going to share with you now, is more important than how long you rest, as long as it's reasonable, is have a designated rest time. Don't just do what I did and don't just be random. Don't just like go talk to your mates for like 15 minutes and then do another set and then have like 15 seconds, then do another set and like have it completely random, because your results will be completely random and you won't be able to predict them. And I think one of the most important things is predictability, having that consistency, and you should be able to predict that you will get stronger, you will get bigger, your performance will increase, your physique will improve, all of that stuff. So don't wing it. Time your rests and you will have some results predictable that come week on week and month on month. So let's dig into some of the practical advice here. Let's dig into some of the actual stuff that you can plug into your workouts after watching this video to improve your results with your weight training program. Now, here's a little bit of an inconvenient truth. Your rest time depends on your experience, your goals, and your training style. There, generally speaking, isn't a right or wrong rest time. It's just right or wrong for the context in which you're training. Having said that, generally speaking, and there is some more nuance to this depending on the person, but generally speaking, I favor 2 types of rest times. Okay, I put my rest times into 2 types of categories. The 2 categories are volume style training, and strength style training. Now remember, this is all under the umbrella of muscle building. So we're not doing powerlifting. When I say strength style training, what I'm not talking about is 1 rep maxes or 3 rep maxes. What I'm talking about is a little bit lower reps, maybe 5 to 8 reps, where you're working on strength, still within that muscle building context. So those are the 2 buckets. It's the volume style and the strength style. Now let me explain a little bit more about what I mean. Now let's start with people who are absolute beginners. And what I'm saying by that is people who have less than 6 months worth of experience of hard, proper training, and they've not seen very much results yet. If you've been training on and off for like 3 years, but you've never seen any change to your physique, in my experience, you're still a relative beginner. So that's who I'm going to start with here, the relative beginners, right? What I tend to do, and this depends on person to person, but generally speaking, when I'm coaching an absolute beginner, what I tend to do is I put that person on a full body workout plan, and there's a video on my channel covering full body workout plans and the reasons why I do that for beginners. So I'm not going to go over that here. You can go watch that other video after you finish watching this one. So I put them on a full body workout plan, and I use 30-second rests between sets. Now, this is the volume style approach. Okay, this is not the strength style approach. So it's a fairly low rest time. Now, I would never ever go lower than 30 seconds for a rest time, because I think that's probably the minimum you need to at least regenerate ATP, the energy currency, in your cells to be able to go again and have a decent return on investment in terms of how much effort and energy you're putting into a set to be able to get a good amount of return out of it. So a minimum of 30 seconds. But during your first 6 to 12 months of proper training, not messing about in the gym, like proper training, proper following a program, properly consistent, doing the diet, doing the sleep, doing all the stuff, in that first 6 to 12 months, I think that 30-second rest time is sufficient. Generally speaking, why? Because you're not strong enough yet to warrant big rest times. So the intensity, which is essential, we need to get a good intensity there to be able to grow muscle. If we don't have a good amount of intensity, then the muscle isn't going to be challenged enough to grow, because muscle is an adaptive response to stress. If we don't have the stress there, the muscle's not going to adapt and respond and grow. So we need intensity, but you're not strong enough yet to get that intensity through sheer amount of weight, right? And because you're very inexperienced in the gym, it's going to be dangerous for you to try and push your strength up really, really high, really, really quickly, because you haven't got the skill there. You haven't got the foundation, right? And this isn't me trying to make you feel worse about yourself. It's just what happens when we've not learned a skill. If you haven't learned to drive yet, you're not going to go on your first driving lesson and do 70 mile an hour, 80, 90 mile an hour down the motorway. Right? You're going to learn how to put the car in gear. You're going to learn how to back out of your driveway. You're going to learn how to park in a parking space. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to learn the basics. So to start with, in your first 6 to 12 months, you want to be lifting slightly lighter weights. You're still going to progress strength each time, but you're not going to be pushing it up really fast. As a result, you can't rely on the weights to create the intensity. You need to create intensity yourself. So that's why we have lower rest times. Now, there's other things with the full body program as well that you can learn about on that video that I've mentioned. If you go on my channel, or there's a link in the description or somewhere like that, you can learn more about the full body workouts there. But in terms of rest times, when you're starting, I would say 30 seconds at a maximum 60 seconds. But in my approach, I like to use 30-second rest times with beginners for their first 6 months-ish of training. Now, once you've had that 6 to 12 months of solid training, you've got some experience under your belt, you've built some muscle, you've built some strength, you feel a little bit good about yourself, and you've developed that skill of weight training. After that, you can then start to alter your training plan, and as a result, alter your rest times. Does that make sense? So we then move from the volume bucket of rest times over into the strength bucket of rest times, right? So the strength bucket of rest times is slightly different, because the goal of the exercise is slightly different, right? Now, again, it all falls under that muscle building umbrella. So the goal of our training doesn't change, but we're now able, we now have the foundations in place after a good 6 to 12 months of weight training to be able to build our strength using slightly higher weights. Now, when we are using slightly higher weights, we're not doing any supersets, we're not doing any like intensifiers with the strength-based exercise. we're just doing a straight set. Like I said, probably 5 to 8 reps at the absolute minimum. You'd go 4 reps, because any lower than that, you're not muscle building, now you're powerlifting. So you need to do probably at least 4 or 5 reps to create some proper stimulus for muscle rather than just nervous system. So that's the kind of the programming side. You do 5 to 8 reps, and maybe you'd back off to 8 to 12 on a second or third set. But in between those sets, if your goal is a little bit more strength focused, you're probably going to be resting between 2 and 3 minutes. I don't think you should really rest longer than 3 minutes, because remember, the goal is still muscle building. Like, it's all relative. We do want to get stronger. It's always nice to lift more weight, and it's always going to be beneficial if we can do the same exercise with the same form, with the same reps for more weight. That's going to result in higher degree of tension. It's going to result in more muscle building output. But we don't want to lift weight for the sake of lifting weight. If that's the goal, that's cool, but you're watching the wrong video. You need to go watch a powerlifting video, and, you know, respect to those guys. But we're talking about muscle building. So in the context of muscle building, we don't need to rest longer than 3 minutes. Okay? So how long you rest depends on what the goal of the specific exercise is. Is it a volume goal where you're trying to maximize blood volume, maximize the pump, give yourself a chance to learn the ropes, give yourself a chance to get into this whole training style thing? Or is it a strength style where you're trying to push up, hit those fast twitch muscle fibers, get some more weight on the bar, that kind of thing, all under that same umbrella of muscle building? The very minimum you're going to rest is 30 seconds to allow yourself to regenerate ATP and regenerate energy. In a volume style, you could rest up to 60 seconds, but I'd recommend keeping it on the lower side to get that intensity up. On the strength side, you would be resting 2 to 3 minutes. In terms of programming, what I would suggest with strength style stuff is you don't do more than maybe 3 or 4 exercises, even at the most advanced stage of strength style exercises with strength style rest times in your workouts. Reason being is, if you're watching this video, it's likely that you're a natural person who's not taking any chemical assistance, because that's who I make these videos for. Now, we don't have the same recovery resources that somebody who's taking chemical assistance might, right? So that's not a slight or a dig at anybody, it's just a fact. So we have to manage our recovery a little bit more. So if we're going to do 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 strength style exercises, really heavy compound stuff with loads of weight, we're going to smash our nervous system into the ground, we're going to overwhelm our musculoskeletal system, and it's going to be quite difficult for us to recover. It's not impossible, but it's quite difficult. Now, we all have lives, we have jobs, we have responsibilities, we have stresses, we have sometimes poor night's sleep, whatever. We're not bodybuilders, we're not doing this for a living. So I would recommend 3 or 4 strength style exercises, absolute max. And if you're just starting with the strength style stuff and you're moving away from the volume stuff a little bit, I'd say the first 2 exercises can be strength style. So, you know, it might be a bench press and a military press if it's upper body or push day, or it might be a deadlift and a barbell row or something like that if it's a pull day. It depends on the kind of the programming that you're on, but just don't overdo that strength style stuff. Just ease your way in. Remember, you're only as good as what you can recover from. You're only going to build as much muscle as your body can repair at any one time. So allow your body to repair it, and don't absolutely run yourself into the ground. So to sum up, if you're a beginner, less than 6 months training, use the volume style, use the full body workouts, go watch the videos I've got on full body workouts, implement that. You can then progress on to upper lower body workouts or push pull legs workouts, but use the full body workouts, use the volume style rest times, rest 30 seconds. Once you get strong and confident enough to mix in some strength work, then you can rest 2 to 3 minutes on those strength stuff. Hope that made sense, guys. Hope that was simple enough. Hope that you can plug and play that straight away into your programming now. Remember, my name's Andy Clements. I make these videos for free. I'm not asking for anything in return other than if you enjoy this, tell a friend and subscribe and like the videos, because it really, really does help the channel. So thank you very much, and I will speak to you guys in the next video. Cheers.